Hello guys and welcome to a new Steel Division video today by me Vulcan. Today I have for you a 4 vs 4 on Omaha, and in this one I'm going to be using the 16th Luftwaffe. On my team today I have Silhouette, Bobblehead and Gonzo, who are going to be using the 3rd Fallschirmjäger 21st Panzer and Panzer Lehr. And then on the opposing side we have Tankol, Devout, Nilpferdbud and Jagdsaws, who are going to be using the 15th Infantry Scots, 1st Panzerner, Guards Armoured and 4th Armoured respectively. So, this map is an interesting one for the 16th Luftwaffe because I find that there are pretty much two ways you want to play around the 16th Luftwaffe. They can be played around the open quite nicely because of their 1,200 meter range units, but you can also play them around forests and towns quite easily due to the Luftwaffe pioneers in the early game. So I kind of ended up in a place where, well, basically bocage, and it's really quite hard to push through these tree lines as the 16th Luftwaffe. It works relatively nice in a sense that you aren't going to be put up against a lot of armoured forces, and if you are, you can maybe ambush them. But in general, it's pretty hard to advance with like just purely infantry when you don't have the support of like the 1,200 meter range. So you'll see me try and support my units in the later game with different units like the Stier 42, and in the early game it's all about the Flak Panzer Brenns. But yeah, it did get pretty difficult, and I find that the 16th Luftwaffe in general is a very static division, so you find it hard in general to push forwards. There are ways in doing it, of course, but in my case, I was very static during this game. But I felt that this game in general showed off a lot of the things that I talked about in my battle group overview, and this was played after I recorded that. So I wanted to just make sure that I wasn't just talking crap when I made that battle group overview, and wanted to try out some of the units like the FK 288s that I recommended. And that's going to be a demonstration of those in this game. So my infantry does comprise of Luftwaffe Jäger, Luftwaffe Pioneer here. We have the Flak Panzer Brenn, and we've got a couple units of command infantry. Keeping the command on your units in the 16th Luftwaffe is pretty important because barely any of your units actually have veterancy, which is hard to like work around sometimes if you don't bring in any command. On this side, I'm bringing in the Flak Panzer Brenn and some more infantry here. And for this game, I was pretty much watching this area of the map. I was the right mid. On my left, I have Bobblehead with the 21st Panzer. On the far left is Gonzo with his Panzer Lehr, well-renowned player for the Panzer Lehr. So I don't know whoever was on his opposing side, but they're going to have a bad time. And Silhouette here is with the 3rd Fallschirmjäger heading into this town area, which is actually pretty hard to push into. It could end up that like Silhouette here, if he doesn't actually get into any of these buildings, it would be hard to push across the open, because this is quite an open area for the 3rd Fallschirmjäger to tackle. But anyway, I'm just going to be focusing on my area. Let's speed it up, get the deployment underway and the game going. I'm bringing up a mortar to follow me up, by the way, and also the Panzerschreck here in the UE 630. So off we go. I'm pretty sure that this is an FK 288, and I'm bringing that in at the start to not only provide like artillery support, but also as a direct fire AT gun. It has 1,200 meter range on its AP, and then it has the same on its HE at direct fire, and then you can actually fire beyond that with HE shells, which is really cool. It's a very unique unit. I think both of the Russian units are very similar. The Russian sort of AT guns / howitzers, and they can direct fire and they can arty fire as well, which is very interesting indeed. Anyway, my infantry rolling up here. It's pretty risky rolling up to this junction without unloading, so I'm going to be unloading earlier, like sooner than later, because generally tanks come down here and just slaughter this road. If you see there's like a bend in the road here, and you just don't want to really go past that at the start of the game on Omaha. But 52% territory lead in favour of the Axis early on, not too shabby. Got some Luftwaffe Fusilier here. These are pretty much staple. You want to make sure that you have them at the start of the game to assist your Luftwaffe Jäger and Luftwaffe Pioneers. But here they're going to be starting to fire on these cavalry scouts, which is quite nice. I'm also going to be beginning to mortar them with the 80mm mortar. Like Panzerbrenn's moved up, and you can see another unit of Luftwaffe Fusilier there. They're pretty expensive, but definitely worth having on the front line because they help you spot units that you're up against. For example, these cavalry scouts and rifles and so on. Now this 80mm mortar is a bit off target here. Likely should have been trying to go for the rifles instead, as I was sort of aiming at where the cavalry scouts were falling back to, but still managed to pin down the WC-52, which was nice, and I've brought over the Flak Panzerbrenn now to slam those rifles into the ground. That's exactly how you want to use the Flak Panzerbrenn. It's not just AA, you want to be using it as direct fire support. WC-52 is hitting the Luftwaffe Fusilier here, going to get the Flak Panzerbrenn to try and kill that off for me. A 20mm should be able to wreck an unarmoured vehicle, so that's what I'm hoping for there. And I'm also starting to open up with my FK288. You'll see that start to fire a pretty long way, honestly. Look at that. All the way over to where I spotted the enemy mortar fire. Luftwaffe Pioneer. They came out the wrong tree line and found themselves under fire from multiple half-tracks. And this is where the difficulty lies with the 16th Luftwaffe. They are kind of countered pretty hard by an armoured division, and we're currently up against Jagdsorces using the 4th Armoured. It's probably one of the most obnoxious to play against as the 16th Luftwaffe. You don't have too much to take care of their half-tracks. You're really reliant on the Panzerfaust and Panzerschrecks of your infantry. You do have the FK288s that can do a decent job, but on a map like this, where the sight lines aren't very open, it's actually pretty hard to do. Either way, I'm still going to be bringing up a AT gun here, and I've got an FK as well. The good thing about the FKs is you can safely sort of deploy them further back and just have your normal AT guns move forwards as usual. So you have kind of this layered defense. Your FK288 kind of acts as artillery, and then the PaK-38 acts as your sort of frontline AT. Now there was some rifles here moving into this tree line. You can see that there was some smoke put down by my Luftwaffe Führer so that it could run away. Now it's just a matter of trying to get my Luftwaffe Fusilier to kill off these rifles, and I'm looking to try and help out with the 80mm mortar. PaK-38 finishes off a half-track there, and my mortars coming in at just the right moment here. Pinned down both of them at the same time. Unfortunately, my Fusilier surrenders first. His rifle was managing to get away there, which is kind of annoying. Oh, this was very cool. The FK288 was actually direct firing the 6-pounder that we revealed there, the M1 guns. This Flak Panzerbrenn taking a wrong turn and landing itself into this M1 gun. But yeah, you can see the 2 damage that it took from the FK288. These are pretty much IGs and also AT guns at the same time, and also artillery. So just a really incredibly versatile unit. Just having them a little bit further back than your normal AT works out very nice indeed. 80mm mortar, going to be going for the hits onto the M1 gun there. I wasn't entirely sure if I predicted that right, but it looks like I was bang on, because I kind of forgot where the M1 gun was as I looked away for a second. PaK-41 Gerlich coming in up from Silhouette. Since Silhouette's not doing too bad on this right side, he's just brought in some off-map. He's absolutely demolishing the forces of Niltford dude in the town here. FK288 still going for the shots onto the M21 mortar carrier. So I'm in this sort of weird setup where I want to push through these tree lines, but it's actually pretty hard for me to do so. I have the FK288 that can like arty for me / direct fire, but if this was like 1,200 meter range, these FK288s would be absolutely hero, but In this situation, it's not as good at all. With double pioneers dropping off as close as I can, the rifles here are being pinned down by the FK288, and then we have the pioneers running up and throwing their grenades, and we kill off the cavalry scouts there. I'm also going to try and run down those rifles. But we are being attacked from the rifles from the left side as well. And it looks like there was some command here to stop these rifles from surrendering, and you can see the armoured leader falling back there. Yeah, this FK288 isn't in the best place. Like, obviously I'm just using it for artillery at the moment, as you can see. But ideally I would have it in like this tree line or this tree line so that I could start to maybe shoot some of these half tracks. Not sure I would kill Abrams because it has 10 armor and we only have 9 AP here. But there's always that chance, I guess. There's always like a 2% chance, I think. Especially like when you have like 10 AP versus 10 armor, there's like 2% chance. So at 1,100 meter range, there would be a good chance of penetration. The other thing is you always do morale damage, so eventually you'd make the Abrams fall back. But yeah, moving into line of sight here, going for the shot. Not really going to be working out. We're going to come under fire from the 50 cal and the main gun, and that is not an engagement I want to keep up necessarily. Go for another shot there though. The Luftwaffe Fusiliers taking most of the pounding from these half tracks and so on. I'm a little bit delayed on getting that FK288 out of there. Mainly because I was probably focused on this side where my AT guns were being hit by an M4 105, which is pretty horrible. So the M1 gun going to be hitting my UE630MG, and I'm going to be moving my Pak 38 out of the tree line there to avoid it getting killed. I'm bringing up a Panzerjäger Bren for the close range engagements, and I'm also bringing up plenty more infantry to keep the front line going. Now on my right side, Silhouette has managed to break through Niltverbud, and on the left side, Devout is taking a lot of damage from Gonzo. So that's where the main part of our territory is coming from. In the center, however, Tanko and Jagdsource are putting up a very good fight indeed. And it's just a really interesting matchup between the 16th Luftwaffe and the 4th Armoured. So I really want to get this FK-18 into this tree line now, or this FK-288 into this tree line now, so that I can hit these M3A1s and M3 half tracks. Because they're currently doing a lot of damage to my infantry, and my infantry doesn't have any support. The mortar fire is still coming down though, and that's a bit of an issue, as it is slowly but surely killing off my AT guns. But with the amount of infantry I have running forwards, I'm hoping to make some ground here. Panzerjäger Bren also pretty damn close, might be able to penetrate the honey at that range. But the FK-288 able to fire from back here for a very long time, and I think this is the benefit of the 288 is that it, like, if you are for whatever reason out of line of sight of a unit, you can still fire at it, and it's just so damn satisfying to be able to do that. It's like the idea that, in my opinion, like, tanks should be able to maybe fire position through tree lines. It would be quite OP in my opinion, but it would make sense, right? If you saw an AT gun in a tree line and the crew sort of ran away, you wouldn't stop firing, you would fire through that tree line and hope to still hit them. Focke-Wulf 190 though coming in, taking out the M1 gun. That should allow me to be a bit more free with my Panzerjäger Bren here, and also the Flak Panzer Brens in the future. I've also bought myself a BEO Storch at this point. Panzerjäger Bren going for the kill onto the honey. Fortunately this honey has no veterancy, and I'm hitting him with the FK-288 at the moment. So that's actually working out quite well. But that FK is currently tracking the 6-pounder. And that's something that I didn't know could happen either. If you right click a unit that the FK288 can't see, the artillery will actually track it. Like rather than fire positioning like a normal AT or RT unit would in the same position over and over again, the FK288 actually tracks enemy units, which is pretty damn strong. So for example, if I, focus this rifle unit or just like right click attack them and then they start moving, the FK288 will continue to try and hit them wherever they move. And that's something that I didn't personally know about the 288s until quite recently. My 288 is in position here, and it's killed off one of the AT guns already with the help of Silhouette's Pak 41 Gerlich. Moving up some infantry here, we have the Aufklärer in position. My recon use in this game is actually pretty damn decent. We've got some Aufklärer here, we've got the Luftwaffe Fusilier. It would probably be good to replace some on this left side. Get some Luftwaffe Fusilier or Luftwaffe Aufklärer to look down this road, but that's okay. Silhouette bringing in a HS129B1 there to kill off the M4105. Since he's pretty much won his right side of the map, it makes sense for him to help his fellow players, I guess. Now brought up a Flak 88, and Silhouette's going to be shooting down Niltverbud's Tempest there. But this 88 isn't here as anti-air, it's here to take out Abrams. And Abrams is currently hiding behind this tree line, away from my 288 and the Pak 41 Gerlich. Bantam shows itself, gets wrecked. And that should give you an idea of what's to come when Abrams moves into line of sight of the 88. That's what I'm looking for here, the kill onto Abrams. 88 missing the first shot though. HS129 though, going to be coming in for the shot. Has found itself a target. Bailed out. Very nice indeed. Also going to be picking up the kill there, just before it's forced to fall back. Get a nice Focke-Wulf 190 rocket strike into some reinforcing infantry here. But at the moment, things still pretty much in the same position as they were from the start of the game. I am losing units here and there, but obviously I'm constantly reinforcing myself. Double Panzer IV here, Panzer IV-H and Panzer IV-G. Going to be killing off the Stuart as it moves past this road. But I think in the mid actually we were just over halfway around this sort of area. But again, the main sort of territory lead is coming from Silhouette on the right and Gonzo on the left. I do have an 88 arriving. That gets kind of unloaded by the artillery coming in from Tanko. Actually, it's the Flak-Zwilling. I think I made the same mistake of assuming that was an 88 in the actual game. But yeah, this Flak-Zwilling, I'm bringing it in sort of midway through Phase B, just to start the anti-air dominance. Now, off map, coming down there from Silhouette onto this town. Really nice, actually. Going to be pinning down a lot of the infantry that are holding that. You can see there are armoured LMG rifles in there, normal rifles. It was just a shame that I didn't have anything to really follow up. But the Flak-Zwilling, of course, going to be mortared almost immediately once it reveals itself. But that's not going to stop the Flak-Zwilling from tearing into the rifles there. So my reinforcements, they are the BEO Storch. It's now arriving. We have more infantry on the way. And I also have the Stür 42. Now the Stür 42 is quite an interesting one against the 4th Armoured, because the 4th Armoured relies on their Hellcats, right? And in this sort of situation, the Hellcats aren't great. That P38 there just getting annihilated by the Flak-Zwilling. But anyway, yeah, the Hellcats aren't great in this sort of territory. So myself and Jagdsource are both not really in the best position for our units, because my FK288s work well in the open and the Hellcats work well in the open. But just in general, going back to what I was going to say, the Stür 42 is actually pretty decent against Hellcats, because Hellcats have, what, 13 AP? And if you're engaging a Hellcat at max range with a Stür 42, the Stür 42 can get kills because it's an open top unit. So even though the Stür doesn't have any AP of its own, it has a reasonable amount of HE and therefore can kill an open top unit. M1 gun going to get killed off there by the 88. And here comes the infantry charge into the town. So what I was going to go for is something very similar to what you do with the 91st Luftwaffe, and that's have a couple units of infantry supported by the Stier 42 as you push forwards. These Luftwaffe Jäger aren't in a very good position, so I'm going to have to get them out of there since there's no command nearby. I probably should have had these Luftwaffe Führer maybe further up, since I'm bringing a fresh unit of Luftwaffe Führer on this side. These Luftwaffe Pioneer get exactly as close as they want. They have the HE grenades. They're going to blow the crap out of the armoured leader there. That's going to allow them to surrender the other units around them. There is a cheeky bombing strike from the P-38 Lightning there. But with my Luftwaffe Führer pinned down as well, those Pioneers are going to end up surrendering, which was unfortunate. Wolf 190 going to be stopping the advance of some rifles there, but the Stier 42 is still fine, so that's going to continue to hammer the rifles and the armoured LMG rifles as we continue, and this is exactly how you want to be using the Stier 42. At this range, it just annihilates infantry very, very easily, and I'm even moving up my initial forces here to capture the town. Now there's currently 6 minutes and 50 seconds left until victory at this point, and we're finally starting to move through Jagdsource and his forces. The Stier 42 here going to be opening up onto the M3A1 half track. Try and stop that from pinning down my forces as much as I can. Again, the Stier 42 can kill a half track, even though it has no AP value, because it has HE value and the half track is open top. AT gun comes out of the woodwork, and that's going to be hit very hard by the Stier 42. But I have made my way into this town now and just started to gain a foothold, especially with these rifles being pinned down. There are some cavalry scouts behind me. They're going to go for the bazooka onto my Stier 42, and getting that transmission damage and forcing it to fall back is basically lining them up to get another shot, unless I can pin them down in time, which I can't because the majority of my troops are pinned down. So nice move by Jagdsource to pick off the Stier 42 there with his cavalry scouts, but rather frustrating on my end, as I would have liked to had that moving forwards into the rest of his forces here. More infantry arriving, however, and just trying to make use of my amazing income in Phase B, 150 points per minute, to overrun the 4th Armoured player here, who does have quite a lot himself, 130 points per minute. But that is a serious amount of infantry that I can put out in this phase. Bobblehead going to be bombing away onto these units. I do lose a unit of infantry here. I have to unload the MG271. In comes the HS129. That's going to pin the Churchill 5 and stop it killing the MG. This MG actually has a decent chance of killing the WC-52. It has quite a nice amount of accuracy, but you can see it's getting very low on health there. Just about forces the WC-52 back in time. Panzerjäger Brenn's coming up. I can use that to possibly rush the Churchill. So that was half my intention. See my flak 88 here, that's on the road, ready to fire all the way down. And I have just brought in some reinforcements into this town, which are going to continue to engage the rifles here, supported by the 88. Those rifles getting pinned down very quickly. There's no command nearby, so just waiting for that surrender. And with this Churchill in a pretty bad spot, I can move up the Panzerjäger Brenn to try and kill that off at that range. We do have some penetration value. They're forcing it to fall back there. My Luftwaffe Jäger still carrying on into the tree line. This Panzerjäger Brenn was actually an absolute hero in this game. There we go. Panzerfaust comes out. The Luftwaffe Jäger finishes off the Churchill with the armoured leader being killed off. The carrier also goes down. Ju-188 coming in with the 2 massive bombs onto the MGMC. Going to be picking up that kill. I've also got off map from the BEO Storch hitting the M21 mortar carrier and the M3 half track. My HS129 almost got the kill there. But we've definitely significantly broke through in the mid now. And the off map, just to add insult to injury, direct hits the M21 mortar carrier and we get that kill anyway. So done pretty well, and have definitely started to push back Jagdsource. So I felt this was a pretty nice game that really showed off the mechanics of the 16th Luftwaffe. Like setting up an AA net pretty damn early on. I've got two 88s with this Flak-Zwilling, and then I'm just quite free to use HS129s and whatever else to hit what I want. So like the Focke-Wulf at 190s, they're really, really good for just like hitting AT guns and other support units. Admittedly here, I let my HS129 get a bit far away from my AA net, and therefore we lose HS129, but the Spitfire goes down as well, just towards the end there. And after 22 minutes and 30 seconds, that is victory. Not too bad. So 1,490 kills to 1,055 losses, a pretty average score for like an infantry division. You are going to lose a lot of forces trying to make ground because your infantry in general is kind of just suicide. Like you have it just run forwards into the gunfire, and you have a lot of availability of infantry, so you just run it into your opponents and then support it with everything else you have. So set up that AA net. You can use as many aircraft as you want. You don't necessarily have to worry about the fighters if you keep your AA in the right places. Obviously in the end there, my Flak-Zwilling wasn't able to fire because it was blocked by line of sight of the forest. But still, you know, great job to my team in this one. Silhouette on the right side, killing Niltferdbud. Like I said at the beginning though, Niltferd, pretty new to the game as far as I'm aware. Gonzo, of course, pretty good player, took on De Walt on the left side and did well against the 1st Panzer with the Panzerlehr. Into phase B and C, it's a pretty hard matchup for the 1st Panzer, so that makes sense. But there you go. Kills came down to Flak Panzer Brenz in the beginning, taking out the WT-52s. Pack 38 picked off a couple of the armoured units for me. Focke-Wulf 190 took out the M1 gun. FK-288s were very interesting to use as well throughout this game. They took out the 6-pounder and the Stuart there. The Abrams was taken out by the HS129B1 just as my 88 was about to open up. And the Stier 42 helped that push into the town quite nicely. Although I probably shouldn't have let it get killed by the cavalry scouts. But yeah, well played guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.